Breaking news this Sunday night, Team Canada's triumph. The Canadians defeat South Africa in their first ever World Cup knockout round, advancing to the final 16.
Oh, it's so good. We're so happy to support Canada.
The Canadian pride on display in LA and across this country. More strikes in the Strait of Hormuz.
The ceasefire MOU has been broken.
Why Iran is targeting oil tankers, threatening the ceasefire and the critical shipping route. Finding hope in the horror. The number of missing keeps climbing in Venezuela after last week's twin earthquakes. Push to repatriate indigenous artifacts.
They're not things, just things you display like trophies.
Why a Swiss museum is willing to return thousands of items to Canada for a price.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Canadians across the country are united in celebration tonight after Team Canada made history again, defeating South Africa in the knockout round and advancing to the final 16 of the World Cup for the very first time. And this was the view from Los Angeles, where the must-win match was held. A red wave is washing over the City of Angels tonight. Canadian soccer fans making their presence felt, showing their support for Canada's men's soccer team. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Team Canada made history in dramatic fashion. The match was tied at 0 heading into stoppage time, and the Canadians had all kinds of chances to score. And finally, in the dying minutes, they did, winning 1-0 and advancing to the next stage of the tournament and sending Canadian fans into a frenzy. Our Sarah MacDonald is in Los Angeles for us. And Sarah, it looks like you're in good company down there. What's the feeling like?
Jeff, you would not have known this game was being played on American soil today, at least not where we are in Inglewood, California, and in areas surrounding SoFi Stadium behind me here. There were some nerves, there was excitement, but most of all today in California, there's just a whole lot of pride for the Maple Leaf. You'd be forgiven if for just a moment you forgot Team Canada was no longer playing on home soil. The Canadian contingency of Sunday's World Cup game stopping traffic south of the border. And you don't mind being stopped in traffic?
No, I do not. I love this.
Putting on a spectacle all its own for the Californians, soaking it all in from the sidelines.
I never really looked at soccer, so I didn't know the severity of this. It's great.
The streets of a city typically all about the stars and the stripes. Suddenly a sea of red and white.
We're so happy to support Canada. Let's go.
Fanfare fitting for the team heavily favored to take the win against South Africa, and they did, in a high-stakes, sudden-death knockout round.
I think this is going to be a home game for us, which will be really fun to see.
And this is exactly what the team had been hoping for, going into its first game without home soil advantage.
We're playing in LA, we're not playing in, I was telling these guys, we're not playing on Mars or Pluto, you know what I mean? And it's, again, really a pinch me moment as a Canadian, growing up in the sport, just loving the sport so much, but now to see the passion from so many people, and not just football diehard fans, but from more the general public.
He's dynamite fast.
Another advantage, team captain and star player Alphonso Davies finally off the bench and back in action. Even before kickoff, Canada had once again made history here. The first World Cup host nation ever to hit the pitch outside its own borders.
This is unbelievable. What a moment.
A moment this father-daughter duo from Regina would not have missed.
To be with my children at an event like this is just breathtaking.
You wouldn't have missed it.
No, not for the world.
And making the journey south from Ontario worth it for Matthew and his mom.
We flew to Detroit, then flew to San Diego, then rented a car, then drove 2 hours.
Bafana, the boys, let's go.
As the Canadian boys collided with Bafana. Both teams bringing the heat.
Well, I'm pretty dang excited.
And the hometown pride. As Canada ultimately continues on its historic World Cup run.
Stops for Canada, let's go!
Next stop, Houston, Texas. Canadian fans were hoping for a win. They were expecting a win, and they got it, Jeff. Next game is on Saturday.
We'll see you then. Sarah MacDonald in Los Angeles. Thank you, Sarah. And Canadians across the country erupted after that winning goal. Global Sean O'Shea is at a raucous watch party in Toronto. Sean.
Jeff, you can feel the excitement here at Canada Soccer House at the Lakeshore in Toronto because Canada has won this game. They were the better team all game. They had so many chances to win, and then in extra time, they made it happen. And that was the reaction, and boy, what a reaction it was. People were waiting for something to happen all game. They were desperate to see Canada get this goal and advance, and all those hopes here paid off.
It was amazing! Oh my God! Go Canada!
It was just amazing. Like the way everyone was moving with the ball, shooting, having some misses, but the last goal was just amazing.
So the party here in Toronto continues as Canada now will advance to play either the Netherlands or Morocco. We're now celebrating the big win against South Africa, Jeff.
Sean O'Shea in noisy Toronto. Thank you, Sean. And another day, another World Cup record for Lionel Messi. The 39-year-old Argentinian scored in the dying minutes of Saturday's match against Jordan, and that makes 7 straight games in which Messi has scored, setting a new World Cup record. Earlier in the tournament, he also became the all-time leading World Cup scorer. Messi, who's widely considered the greatest player in history, now has 19 goals and counting. Argentina plays its first knockout match on Friday. A dramatic last-second goal gave Austria the final spot in the knockout round and eliminated Iran, ending the Iranian club's tumultuous World Cup. The team failed to secure enough points to advance, despite remaining undefeated, and it caps off what Iran's captain called a disaster of a World Cup. The team was playing in the U.S., which is at war with Iran, of course, and the team was forced to contend with visa issues, extra travel, and security hurdles. In a closing press conference, the team blamed FIFA for failing to address the challenges imposed by their American hosts. And off the pitch, major cracks are emerging in Iran's ceasefire and memorandum of understanding with the U.S. It was meant to bring an end to the war, but the two countries have now exchanged a series of strikes over the past few days. President Donald Trump is now making new threats against Iran, which is now trying to assert control over the Strait of Hormuz. As Candice Cole reports, it's raising new questions about the future of that critical oil shipping route.
In the span of just a few days, the memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran is in danger of completely collapsing. This video, released by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Sunday, claiming to show missile launches targeting U.S. military sites in Kuwait and Bahrain, in response to U.S. strikes on Iranian missile and drone storage facilities precipitated by Saturday's attack on a Panamanian tanker in the critical Strait of Hormuz, which sees the transport of 20% of the world's oil supply. Just days earlier, Iran targeted a cargo ship in the strait, triggering this latest escalation. Following the U.S.'s retaliatory strikes, U.S. President Donald Trump posted Saturday that Iran may never learn, adding that the U.S. may be forced to act militarily, warning if that happens, Iran will no longer exist. Echoing threats made in April from this Truth Social post when Trump said a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again.
The president's patience isn't going to last forever. They need to understand their leverage is diminishing by the day.
Iran's government has condemned the U.S. strikes. Speaking on Iranian state TV, an IRGC spokesperson said Sunday that as they predicted, the U.S. is deceptive and prone to breaking its commitments, stressing that once the ceasefire is violated, their response will be stronger than before.
It's unsurprising to me that this has occurred because the MOU was so hastily put together and it's so vague. But at this point, the ceasefire MOU has been broken.
And with Iran now attempting to exert its control over the Strait of Hormuz, analysts warn it could send the price of oil and gas soaring once again.
I think that it really could even further raise insurance premiums for any ships that are thinking about going through the strait and just make it commercially unviable to send any vessels through the strait because it's such an insecure environment right now.
Iran has said the U.S.'s strikes will completely halt all diplomatic processes, and American bases in the region will, quote, experience hell in the coming days, according to Iranian state TV. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
The United Nations Development Program estimates the cost of physical damage from Venezuela's twin earthquakes at $6.7 billion US. That's roughly 6% of the country's GDP. And the human cost is also growing. More than 1,400 people are now confirmed dead, and nearly 70,000 others have been reported missing. 4 days later, rescue crews are still finding survivors in the rubble. As Nathaniel Dove reports, there's growing frustration with the government's response to the disaster.
A rescuer calls out and receives a faint response from beneath the wreckage. They're 3 meters deep, the Colombian crew's leader says. They dig, then lower themselves in and find him, 11-year-old Moises, buried for days but still alive. Nearby, a Spanish team pulls out another survivor, and a son and father are carefully removed. They are incredibly lucky. So many others aren't. The number of people missing, tens of thousands, keeps growing. Outside a hospital, survivors wait to learn if their loved ones are still alive. This doctor explains there's too many fatalities and so many trapped that it's hard to know how many people are gone. More than 1,600 foreign rescuers arrived as of Sunday, with more on the way. Many Venezuelans are calling for their government to do much more. We need heavy machinery, this woman says. The workers can't move the debris on their own.
It is a very challenging time for all Venezuelans. I just got a phone call saying that a person that I really love, it's gone.
Thousands lost their homes in 3 minutes, Claudia Gonzalez says. It will take much, much longer to rebuild.
It's a catastrophe that Venezuela cannot deal with. And that's why we are thinking and keep on calling for the international community to put their eyes in Venezuela.
This man hasn't seen his daughter since the quakes hit. He's been digging for 4 days. He says without machines, you have to make the most of the daylight. Every second counts. Nathaniel Dove, Global News, Toronto.
A rare gesture of humility from the Russian president today as Ukraine expands its attacks on Russia's infrastructure. Speaking at a party conference, Vladimir Putin admitted that Russia is going through a difficult period, but he vowed his government will honor all social obligations to its citizens. He did not directly mention Ukraine. Putin's comments come as Ukraine steps up its drone strikes targeting Russia's military and energy facilities, the latest round hitting 2 oil refineries overnight. The attacks have caused widespread fuel shortages, leading to restricted gas sales for civilians. Deadly heat coming up. The death toll climbs in Europe as the continent cooks in a historic heat wave. Plus, beaming with pride, one of the world's largest LGBTQ2+ parades hits the streets of Toronto. A skydiving school flight ended in tragedy in France after the small plane crashed. The pilot and all 10 parachutists on board were killed. The plane crashed in a small community in northeastern France this morning, narrowly missing homes. No one on the ground was hurt, and the cause of the crash is now under investigation. France is also reporting around 1,000 additional deaths during Europe's record-breaking heat wave. Most of those fatalities involved seniors at residential care and private homes, especially in Paris. France has also seen more than 70 deaths from people drowning while trying to keep cool. That heat wave has shattered temperature records across the continent in recent days. Western Europe is finally seeing some relief as the heat wave moves east. Temperature records were smashed in Austria, Czechia, Germany, and Poland over the weekend. Fast-moving wildfires are ravaging the American Southwest, with Utah, Colorado, and Arizona battling dozens of blazes. 3 firefighters were killed and 2 others injured. The largest blaze in southern Utah has grown to more than 90,000 acres in just a few days. And at least 4 people have died in Kentucky after heavy rain caused widespread flooding. Dozens of others had to be rescued as the floodwaters wiped out roads, bridges, and homes. A state of emergency has now been declared, with more rain expected to fall across the region. Citizenship whiplash coming up. Why immigration officials ordered new Canadian citizens to suddenly surrender their certificates. Canadian immigration officials are facing calls to explain why dozens of people who received Canadian citizenship certificates were then ordered to give them back. The Prime Minister echoed those concerns last week, saying those affected deserve an explanation. Some have had their cases resolved, but others are still waiting for answers. Taria Isri reports on the citizenship flip-flop.
A lost Canadian now found. But Tom Marr still doesn't know why Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada reversed its decision not once, but twice.
Playing fast and loose with citizenship rules is not the sort of thing I imagined from IRCC.
It's been a whirlwind few months for the American. He has an ancestor from Quebec, seen here in a family photo from 1861. Under a new law, Marr was eligible to apply for Canadian citizenship. He received his certificate in April. Then last week, a letter requiring its surrender. Days later, another flip-flop, with the department writing the certificate has been revalidated.
I handed my phone to my husband and said, I think this says I'm still Canadian. I'm feeling very emotional right now. Would you please read this and confirm that this does say I'm very Canadian? And my wonderful husband said, yes, it does.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, right?
Marr consulted Montreal lawyer Lisa Middlemiss, who says his Canadian lineage was well documented, only adding to the confusion.
Certificate of citizenship referenced above shall not be cancelled.
He's one of at least several dozen people who recently received this letter ordering them to surrender their Canadian citizenship. His was reinstated. Others haven't been as lucky.
Highly disruptive. People are either have moved their lives to Canada or in the midst of selling their house. So for those who've already been approved, it makes them wonder, am I less Canadian now?
The immigration minister says she's ordered a review, but won't say what triggered it in the first place.
I have instructed the department when the second I found out there were something that I wasn't sure what it was, to investigate.
Don't those people deserve a timely explanation of what had happened?
The simple answer is yes, and they all be following up.
The department has stopped processing new citizenship by descent applications. More than 82,000 people are backlogged, with wait times of at least 15 months. A system under strain and short on answers. Jeff?
Taria Isri in Montreal. Thanks, Taria. Up next, bringing them home. The push to repatriate thousands of Indigenous artifacts held in Switzerland. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow were among the thousands attending the city's annual Pride Parade. Toronto Pride bills itself as the largest festival in Canada and the second largest Pride in the world. Organizers said this year's theme is We Won't Stop, reminding participants of past victories and ongoing fights for rights and visibility. Well, 6 months after Indigenous artifacts were returned from the Vatican, First Nations groups are now working to repatriate thousands of other items from Switzerland. A museum in Zurich has been amassing the ceremonial and traditional pieces for more than 30 years. As Melissa Ridgen reports, the owner of that museum says he's willing to part ways with his collection for a price.
They're not things, just things you display like trophies.
Carl Stone of the Dakota Teepee First Nation in Manitoba is part of a group that caught wind of a privately owned museum just outside of Zurich, Switzerland, that houses more than 3,500 ceremonial and traditional items from Indigenous nations in Ontario and across the prairies, even into the United States.
The sacred pipes and the holy feathers, the bundles that were there and being held in this museum originate from Dakota ancestry, Ojibwe ancestry, Cree ancestry.
Stone was part of a delegation called the Bringing Them Home Project that went to Switzerland last year to see the collection. Regalia, headdresses, clothing, even guns believed to be from the Battle of Bighorn era.
So a lot of our nations in this island, Turtle Island, that we call home, are in that museum.
Vincent Escriba spent his life collecting these items. He told a Swiss publication that sometimes he made 3 trips a year to North America to buy. Escriba estimates the collection to be worth $13 to $17 million.
We need to figure out if this price that he's asking of anywhere from $13 to $17 million, is that a fair price? we have no idea.
In an email to Global News, Escribas says, "My heart, time, and financial resources have gone into the museum, which is why I need to sell it." He hopes the Bringing Them Home project can buy the entire collection to return to their place of origin. Ideally, of course, they would go to a major important museum in Winnipeg. The Bringing Them Home group says starting a museum is one option for Manitoba items. For the rest, they would return the pieces to the nations they came from. They hope to raise $20 million for the project.
We would like to reach out to all of the nations and the world to partner and help provide financial support to bring these sacred bundles home, back to our people and back to our nations.
Governments, museums, and private collectors have faced intense pressure in recent years to repatriate Indigenous items plundered during colonization. The Vatican returned more than 60 items to Canada last December. National Indigenous organizations are working with the Canadian Museum of History to determine where the items came from. Those communities will decide whether they want them back or have them displayed publicly. First Nations, Inuit, and Métis leaders say there is much more work to do. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is Lac Craig in Grenville-sur-la-Rouge, Quebec. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.